Welcome to Schupak Sports, our weekly interview session. Today, we're lucky enough to have Mark Linden, who's up in the Northwest United States, up near. Are you in Seattle, Mark, or where?
Seattle area, yeah.
Okay, there you go. Who started a phenomenal organization called Baseball Positive. Let's get right into it, Mark. We're going to talk about youth sports and baseball in general, cover a lot of ground. What do you think are the three biggest myths about youth baseball?
I'm not exactly sure what you're anticipating with this, but I've got my thoughts.
Go ahead.
Number one, the shortstop and the second baseman are not the cut relay player on plays to home plate. Is that in line with what you're looking for?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Um, you don't stand in the stretch position to catch a throw.
Okay.
And kids don't understand that baseball is a sprinting game. When you watch kids baseball and the way they respond, kids view baseball as a standing around game.
Okay. But let's
And
go to
in
the
my,
first.
in my I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's go back to the first one about the relay.
Yeah.
Just expand upon that a little bit. The,
Well, I've watched youth level baseball on a daily basis for 15 years, including all stars.
right.
And you got a kid on second, a ball hit the right field. The second baseman runs out, yells cut, cut, cut. The right fielder throws the ball 30 feet to the second baseman, and the second baseman turns around and throws the ball 120 feet in this big, huge arc to home plate.
Okay. So
So if you watch a high school, college, or pro relay, you don't have a throw that covers 20% of the distance followed by a throw that covers 80% of the distance. You got a throw that hits somewhere in the near the baseline, middle of the infield, and then a second throw home.
correct, but is it the right person? He's just too far out in the outfield. He should be closer to home plate in the line.
No, actually, it was really cool. I coached college baseball for a decade,
Right.
got out of that and came to the youth level. So I went out to the local all-star tournament just to try to, get to know some people. And I got talking to one of these coaches and followed up with a couple others. And they said, Mark, dude, in Little League baseball or youth level baseball, the pitcher is the cutoff to home. And I was just like, and they explained why. They go, one, there's a backstop right there. There's no room for a pitcher to back up. And your pitcher is your best athlete or one of your best athletes. So you want them handling the ball. And it makes it simple. They don't have to figure out, is it the first baseman on this one, the third base on that one? It's the pitcher every time. And I was sold and I've taught
Okay.
that ever since.
All right. So your belief is the pitcher is usually the cutoff man, right?
I want to be clear. I was taught, I learned so much. Most of what I teach now, I've just learned from talking to other coaches who I've learned from. But no, it's not a belief. It's the way it is. It's just fact.
Right.
I've got a story. Maybe it's not the time to tell it, but Pacific Little League. I'm not going to go on the story. I'm just going to give you the background. Pacific Little League, which is is from a suburb of Seattle, went to the Little League World Series like 10 years ago.
Right.
I was at the state championship game, watching them win the state championship to move on to regionals on their way to Williamsport. And the team they were playing against had this great coach, but they were trying to run a relay like it was 90-foot baseball. Long story short, they botched the relay, and Pacific ended up coming back, winning that game, and going on to the Little League World Series.
Interesting.
Because
Very
they
interesting.
and the one thing I'll say is the pitcher was trying to back up home plate. Well, there's no room for him, so the pitcher was standing against the edge of the fence. Their best athlete, a guy throwing 70 miles an hour, and the ball was offline, went up the baseline on the other side, and the kid from third scored.
Right. I see. Yeah. Very interesting. Okay. Now, also, you mentioned the second thing is don't stand in the stretch. Explain exactly what are we talking about the first baseman in
We're
particular?
talking about anything. I'll tell you, and I say it. I say I've laughed many times, and I don't mean this disrespectfully. I understand that parents and adults in youth baseball, 99% are volunteers, and they're wonderful. I work with them a lot, love them. But I'll be doing some sort of a clinic, or I'm working with a team, and I'll have coaches and parents out on the field, and it's hilarious. They get ready to catch a ball, and they stand in a stretch position like there's some magic to standing that way about how you catch a baseball.
Let me just interrupt you for a second for our audience. And by the way, we're talking to Mark Linden of Baseball Positive. When Mark is talking about a stretch, he's not talking about a pitcher in a stretch. He's talking about a fielder stretching his body out. Is that right?
Yes, to catch a throw for
Right.
a force out. Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
Okay, no, that's good. That's
Okay.
good.
All right. So, and you maintain the best way to do it is how?
Well, if you watch a major league first baseman, I say major league because there's video of that. If you watch a major league first baseman take a throw at first, they run over to the base and they square up their feet like they're playing defense in basketball.
Right.
And not until the ball is in the air and they see that it's going to be accurate do they then switch their foot position to go into a stretch, foot against the bag, reaching out with the other foot.
Gotcha.
But the misinterpretation is because most people watch the game on TV. They either watch on TV or when you're at the ballpark, people are following the ball. So the ball's hit the third base and they watch the ball go to third base, and the third baseman throws the ball across infield. They're watching the ball. By the time the first baseman comes into review, the first baseman's standing out here in a stretch.
Right.
And they assume that guy was standing that way the whole time. What they don't realize is that the player was in that defensive position like a basketball player until the ball was in the air. It's like, okay, it's accurate. Now I'll commit my feet and get in a position that's very difficult to adjust from.
Okay, great. Now, the last thing you mentioned about sprinting. Expound on that again, Mark. Then we're going to get into your background.
Yeah. Well, the thing about, again, I work with kids every day, and they run camps and been to tons of games. The kids don't understand that. Again, when they watch the game, they're usually following the ball, and so their perception of the game is just the person catching the ball, catching and throwing the ball, and the other person, fielding and catching, the other person catching the throw. But what they don't understand is the other people around, if they're not getting the ball, they're running over and covering a base, they're running over to back up a base, but they don't see that going on.
Right.
So one of the most important things we teach kids is that when the ball is hit, everybody's got something to do. You got to if you're not getting the ball, you're getting a base, you're going to back up. And because you've got a base runner sprinting as fast as they can to get to a base, everyone's got to sprint.
Yes. And, it's funny, Mark, I'm a big proponent of that. And when people tell me that, compared to like lacrosse and soccer, baseball is so slow, I would say, listen to Mark Linden, how he coaches the game. Because if you do it the way he coaches, just how I think and how I used to coach, everybody has a job almost on every pitch. I just wanted to ask you one other question. Because when you mention about sprinting too, I tend to think on the youth level, kids don't use their legs as much as they should. And what I maintain is I see with fielding, a lot of times if the parents go out and buy a $250, $300 glove, kids think if they stick out the glove, the ball's automatically going to go into the glove.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you one of Marty Schupak's theories. Early in the year, with soft covered balls, I tend to like drills without using gloves because that will force them to move your feet. And what's your opinion on that?
Coaching catching a ball. Well, I'll take a step over. Playing catch at the start of practice. I call it playing catch practice. It's not warming up or loosen up your arm. It's practicing playing catch. And as kids know, when they're throwing with their buddy, the ball doesn't come straight to them all the time. So we teach them, believe we're on the same page. We teach them that if the ball's over here, over there, you've got to move your feet to take your hands to where the ball's coming.
Right.
So playing catch is a footwork thing. And I call playing catch practice. I say, kids, this is not warm up. This is a drill. It's called playing catch practice, and it's a footwork drill. Your feet, you be focused on your feet. You got to move your feet to catch the ball. When you throw, you got to move your feet to use your leg power to throw.
Right. I see. All right. Mark Linden, Baseball Positive, which is a great organization. We're going to refer to that for the next half hour. But I saw your resume, which is huge. So if you could kind of condense it and tell the fans of out there, Schupak Sports and the baseball lovers, a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in the Seattle area where it rains a lot. Have played as much baseball in a gymnasium as I have on outdoors as a kid growing up, all the way through community college and 4-year. So had this initial experience or a lifelong experience of coaches right in the face, coaching. We had nothing to do, so we had all these trick plays and all this fancy stuff. And I was raised to believe that baseball is all about, massive information. Then after I played briefly in the Cubs organization, minor league baseball, the stars aligned, and I ended up at Wichita State University working under Gene Stevenson, legendary guy, won a College World Series a bunch of times, been there a bunch of times. And the 2 years I spent there, I learned the most valuable lesson I ever could learn, and that is keep it freaking simple. Throw out all the fancy stuff, get it to A, B, C, and repeat. And that was the formula for one of the most successful programs in college baseball. So I went through this complete transformation that baseball is about teaching a zillion things and being tricky and all that. It was just like the Bull Durham movie. Throw the ball, catch the ball, hit the ball. That shower scene. So I was there. I coached at University of South Carolina. I was a head coach of a small Division I in Louisiana called Centenary. Missed the Northwest, came back, coached community college ball back here for 3 years, had my boys. The baseball coaching lifestyle wasn't for me and from a family standpoint. So I got out of it for about 5 years. Then through talking to friends and stuff, I found a niche helping train coaches at the youth level, the volunteer moms and dads. Been doing that for 15 years, and it's absolutely wonderful. I love it.
Good for you. And the name of the organization's Baseball Positive, and it's baseballpositive.com. We'll get into that a little bit later. But let's get right back to this. I have a lot of questions. One of my pet peeves, and I want to ask you, youth baseball, at what age should leagues have playoffs?
I feel like as soon as you start keeping score, you should have playoffs. Kids love, as much as our culture says, hey, it's not about winning, we don't need to keep score. Kids are competitive. Human beings are competitive. And, so that's my take on that. It's like keep score, try to win. When it comes to playoffs, I mean, that's an exciting time at the end of the year. Now I'm speaking from a perspective of the organizations that I've interacted with. They have the playoffs where everybody gets in the playoffs. Right,
which is good. But let me just interrupt you there. Even like kids like 7 and 8 years old, they should have playoffs where my experience from observing and being involved is at that age, the winner is usually the team that walks the most. Okay.
Yeah.
So you still think at that age there's a benefit in that?
Well, again, I honestly, Marty, until you asked me, I'd never thought about it. So I'm just pulling this out of my backside.
Go ahead, that's okay.
The first thing that comes to my mind is it's more games and kids. Right. It's about them playing. So that because I'd never thought about it until 20 seconds ago. I just thought play more baseball. Awesome.
More games. Now, in T-ball, which I don't know how it is in your area. In this area, usually it's 5 and 6 years old. Other
Mhm.
parts of the country could start as early as 4. It could
Yeah.
go as late as 7. Your opinion on T-ball, is it worthwhile, and can we actually teach baseball skills to these kids?
Marty, we could do an entire show just on T-ball. Um, I'll try to be brief. Number one, yes, we can teach them skills. We just have to understand what's realistic. So I guess give me an example of skills or all. We teach them how to use their legs to swing the bat. Make them okay. I'll take it. We need to get these kids, and you mentioned it earlier, T-ball on all levels, get them to understand that their legs are the engine of their body, that everything they do starts at their legs. So when I'm working with T-ball folks, I tell them, if by the end of the year, we want these kids to understand that their legs power their batting swing, that they have to move their feet, use their leg power to throw the ball. If you've got that, it's a successful T-ball year.
Okay, good, very good. Some parents, they think there's like too much standing around, and I've actually advised different leagues. Look, if you have like a 10-game season, you might be better off having 2 games, 6 versus 6 next to each other for like 8 of those,
100%.
and then go
100%.
the last two games of the year have 9 or whatever it is, 12 versus 12.
Marty,
Yeah.
it should be a felony to put more than 6 T-ball kids on a field.
Okay.
And it would be better to be 5 or 4. And here's
Right.
the argument. Here's the deal. I have people, leagues go, well, we can't find enough coaches. Well, if you've ever watched a little kid soccer game, they got the little pop-up goals and it's 4-on-4 and they got coaches for that. And actually T-ball, when I do clinics, I tell the leagues and the coaches, T-ball should be a parent-child activity. There should be an adult for every
Right.
kid out there at practice. So yeah, back to what you said, Marty. I'm with you 100%. 6-on-6 at most.
Right. Now, I'm sure the parents up in the state of Washington are similar to the parents in New York and Florida, whatever.
I believe so. I've traveled around, and people are the same wherever you go. You know
Right,
this.
right. So, how do you like really like get the parents under control? I always think it's a good idea to have a parents meeting. Now, I want your opinion, but I just want to tell you here, um, there is a huge umpire shortage around New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I know people that run leagues, and they say the main reason is because of the parents. So how do you advise coaches to handle the parents? Is it a parents meeting? Is it a parental contract? Give me some ideas and the fans out there.
Well, my feeling is the most important thing to do in a preseason coach parent communication is, hey everybody, I'm a parent just like you. I'm just a dude who volunteered to go out there. I'm not Lou Pinella. You know, um, you could do the job as good as I could. I'm the one who volunteered. So you got to understand that. And if you have any expectations for some stellar coaching job, I'm just telling you up front, I'm just going to go out here and do the best I can. They've got to understand this is not high level baseball. It's just a bunch of kids in the neighborhood getting together. The coach is someone who's just giving them a chance to play. So I think that's the most important thing we need parents to understand.
Do they have the same issues we have where there is a lot of catcalling from the stands and a lot of warning that sometimes parents from team A go out with the parents at team B? I've been in fields where they've had to call the police. Have you experienced things like that up there?
I've heard of it. You're always gonna have the squeaky wheel. You always have somebody
Right.
making. To go back to so yeah, I hear that. I have heard or seen any of that in my area. Not saying it hasn't happened. I've seen the videos online of crazy stuff, but the thing to me that a lot of leagues have done, I'm sure you've seen it, is that little sign saying, hey, these are just kids.
Right.
The umpires are volunteers. It's like, hey, folks, I think that sign has a lot of impacts. Like, folks, reality, come on. It's just kids playing in a park.
Right. Okay. And what's your take on travel baseball? That thing, it's taking off like crazy. And down here, I mean, you're up there, you say it rains a lot. You know, we're in the middle of almost February now, but baseball has become, even on a youth level, almost 12 months out of the year, which I find incredible. So what's your take on travel baseball?
Well, I don't work directly with travel baseball, so I don't have any firsthand experience other than I've filled in for a couple of organizations I know they needed a coach for a weekend tournament, and I've done that. But Seattle is notorious, or Seattle has, there's a travel baseball team on every street corner in Seattle.
Right.
And there's businesses, there's indoor facilities. They all have 10, 12 teams. So it's huge. But honestly, I don't really have an opinion because I'm not in the middle of what's going on.
Well, let me ask you a different way, because down here from like June to August, some travel teams could play anywhere from 50 to 70 games.
Yeah.
So when I hear that, I say to myself, that's interesting. And I love competition, I love games, but you don't have time to practice. So how important do you think practices are versus games?
Hugely, 50-50 as far as I'm concerned. And I do agree with you on that. Yeah. Going out and just playing, the kids are going to get game experience as far as dealing with situations, which is hugely valuable. But yeah, I am concerned about whether they're developing skills, throw, catch, bat. Do they know how to play the game properly? Like something that's big with me, which again, we could do a whole show on, is getting kids to understand how the base functions as part of the game. Kids don't understand how to handle themselves around the base. But yeah, I'm with you that practice. We should be practicing half the time, developing skills.
Okay, well, I think that's good advice. And we're talking to Mark Linden from Baseball Positive up in the Northwest United States, around in the state of Washington. You know, Mark, why don't we get into Baseball Positive, what you actually do with them? But I just want to mention on your website, you have two keys that for a kid to learn from. One is to recognize, accept the physical capabilities and limitations.
Yeah.
And then you have the use of terminology is clear and makes sense to each kid.
Yeah.
So if you could comment on those two, then tell us a little bit about Baseball Positive.
Okay. So the first one, that's directed at adults, to recognize that prepubescent bodies don't have the strength, the explosive strength, the power that a post-pubescent body has. Also, a 9, 10, even 12-year-old kid, they haven't been alive very long. They don't have much life experience. They've got very limited experience on a baseball field. And the thing that I see from the adults working with kids is a lot of them, again, they're volunteers. It's their first or second year out, and they approach coaching like they just came from the Mets game. They think the kids are going to play like that. They have unrealistic expectations what that little body and that little brain can do.
Right.
So it's just important for us to understand we're dealing with kids and how we address them and our expectations.
Right. Okay, good. Now, how did you come up with the idea of Baseball Positive?
Just like I said, I was play a little bit of pro ball, coached at the college level, thought I wanted to make a career out of that. Had a family and changed my perspective, spent some time out of it. And again, I was at the age where my friends were having kids, and just kind of interact and saw what was going on. And I just saw that there wasn't, there's people were coming to me and not asking me to help them, but they were just in conversation said, we need good coaches. Our kids aren't getting good coaching. The parents are great. They're volunteering, but they don't know how to run a practice. So I learned that that there is a market out there, that there's actually funding and budgeting and at the league level to bring in outside sources to
Right.
help with this. So I kind of just fell into it.
Right.
And
Do you deal with any municipalities like parks and recreation departments?
nothing other than permitting and
Right.
stuff like
So
that.
just basically it's like the little leagues, I guess you deal with, right?
No, I work in Northeast Seattle Little League and Mill Creek Little League and Pacific Little League and
Okay.
Federal Way Little League.
Right. And they know who you are and you're
North Seattle Pony. Yeah.
right. Okay. I want to ask you this, Mark, because you've been around and I'm sure you've seen kids that are very talented up there have a chance to go on to the next level, whether it's going to play for the University of Texas or Florida State, whatever. You might get some 4 or 5 star athletes, but a lot of parents, they're of the opinion that their kids, whether it's baseball or softball, they might have a chance. And we tend to overrate our own kids, it's human nature.
Yeah.
Showcases have become extremely popular and they become, I find them expensive. What's your opinion about showcases?
Well, when I was at the college level, we would go to showcases quite a bit because it's a nice scouting environment. Now, you're talking about high school level showcases or kid level showcases?
I'm not even sure. I'm talking though from the parents' perspective.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Well, okay, from a parent's perspective. So anyway, when I was coaching the college level, we'd identify kids. We go out and specifically scout individual kids, but we'd also go to showcases because you got 200 people in one spot, and it was really easy to see talent. However,
that's for the high school level, right?
That's a college coach recruiting.
Right. I got you. Okay. So just so the people will understand, and
Yeah.
I just want to take a step back.
Yeah.
So if I'm in, let's say, Seattle, Washington, and my kid was on the All Stars every year from like 10 to like 15, and he was one of the best players in the middle school.
Yeah.
The high school coach loves him. And then one day I get a call from the high school coach that they're having a showcase in town of Bellevue at
Yeah.
the complex. And they'll say the cost is, I'm just throwing out a number, $600.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good. Sounds right.
So you'll have like between 50 and 200 families pay that much money.
Yep.
And it runs
Yeah.
from, I'm guessing 7 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah. And the showcase director is making a killing. Good for him.
Okay. And when the kids show up, I guess they're giving a number and they divide them up. Okay.
Yep.
So from your perspective as
Yep.
as a college staff coach,
Uh-huh.
it's absolutely worth it because you don't have to travel around to like Oregon or Northern California. And you're saving a lot of time and money. But
Mhm.
again, for the parent, and I don't know how it is up there, but a lot of parents around this area, they'll have two incomes in the house, and sometimes we'll have a parent that will have 2 jobs. So, is there any advice you could give to parents that are um, considering a spending that money for a showcase? I guess that's
Well, I would just say that uh, a showcase is great if your kid's a legitimate talent. But when you go to these showcases, maybe a quarter of the kids you even look at twice.
right.
And it's probably comes down to 10% that are legitimate prospects that you would consider even sending a letter to. But so I'd say statistically, it's a roll of the dice. You may not be getting a lot out of it. I mean, if your kid doesn't have a certain level of ability, you can spend $1 million. It's not going to change anything.
Right. I understand.
But it is valuable to if you've got a kid that's got at least borderline college ability, it can get you more exposure.
Right. Okay. that's fair enough. And I know we're talking mostly about the youth level, but I just want to touch on this because a lot of
Mhm.
my followers do have kids that are fairly talented, and I try to also reiterate to them that if they love the game of baseball, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing at a community college or a Division III school, as long as you love the game. Um, I don't know your feeling about that though, too. I know everybody, like I said, they want to play for the Texas, the Arizona States of the world and get a full scholarship. But and now with NIL money, it's like it opened up a whole new Pandora's
Yeah, yeah. I'm not familiar with NIL outside of the basketball and football. I don't know if the kids in the other sports are making
right,
any money at it. And that's a real interesting thing, as we all know, that's new, and there's a lot to be learned outside of football and basketball. I mean, we already know
right,
there's millions of dollars there. Um, but the dream of playing professionally, I mean, Billy Wagner, the guy who just got in the Hall of Fame, I think he played at a Division III school because he was 5'5" when he came out of high school.
right,
You know,
right,
so going to a Texas or a LSU or USC or whatever, prestige. Wow, look at my cool uniform. Yeah, you might get on TV, whatever. But if your goal is to play professionally, you might go to Arizona State and sit on the bench for 2 years, even
right,
if you're a legit pro prospect, because you've got good players ahead of you. So it comes down to if the goal as a kid, parents, what's your kid's goal? If your goal is you want to go to college and develop your skills, there's a lot to be said about going to a smaller school where you're going to play, because like our travel ball discussion earlier, you do need to play to get better.
right. That's true. You're
You
absolutely
know,
right there. Yeah.
so again, I coached it in the SEC and with Wichita State, blah blah blah. So saw that high level of play, and there's value in that. But people don't all understand that just because you got the scholarship or got the call doesn't mean you're gonna start every game.
Right, right. Okay.
And so
Yeah. Okay, well, Mark, we're gonna begin to close this out. I have a couple of other questions, and I'm gonna really put you on the spot now.
yeah,
Okay,
do it.
we're gonna give you. I know you. So you know the movie Field of Dreams, right?
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna have an Archie Graham moment for you because then I'm gonna ask you about baseball movies. But I want to go back to 1989 in the New York Penn League, Geneva. Tell me how it felt when you hit that home run. You had one home run. Tell me, describe it to the people. You've been a great guest. Go ahead.
Okay. It's a sad story, Marty.
Go ahead.
It was my first professional hit.
You really?
Not my first at bat. My first professional hit was a home run. Only home run I ever hit in professional baseball.
What stadium? I know that. I
It
looked.
was at uh it slips me the then it'll come back to me. It was the
It,
Phillies organization. It's changed since then.
it was the New York Penn League,
Yeah, it
right?
was New York Penn League. Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the sad story.
Go ahead.
A lot of minor league ballparks aren't built in relationship to the sun properly. In this
Yes.
park, the sun set behind left center field. I hit the ball. I never saw it because it got hit into the sun. I sprinted to second base, and because I couldn't see the ball, I stopped at second base.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was standing there and looking at the manager at third base, and he's going.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? He goes.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I jogged. So I never got to do the
oh
jog.
my God. Okay. And so you really didn't have a relaxed run around the
No,
base.
I never saw where the ball went.
And
I didn't even know it had gone out of the park. I knew I hit it well. I knew it was toward, it was
but
extra bases.
that's a great story. In fact, you
Yeah.
probably never recovered the ball, right?
Oh God, you're not even thinking about it.
And the
Yeah,
follow-up is I saw, maybe you remember this, you did hit one triple in your career. Do you
yeah.
remember that hit?
No, not.
Okay, there you go. So,
Your first year of pro baseball is such a whirlwind because it's so different than anything you've ever experienced. Because you're
right,
traveling, you're playing every day, you're hungry, you're tired, your body's going through something. Your body and brain are going through something you've never experienced before. So it's just a blur. And I think most people who've played
sure.
professional baseball would say the same thing.
Yeah, which is which is true. You're right. All right, here we go. Another baseball movies. I want you to give me your three best baseball movies, ranked 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a bad movie guy because I can't remember the names of them and that blah blah blah. But anyway, so I would say the one about the dude who was a high school teacher and made it to the major leagues when he's 37
Oh yeah, that's the
as a
rookie.
pitcher.
The rookie. It's called
Yeah,
The Rookie.
so
Yeah, that's a
so
great movie.
love that one, and then Bull Durham in The Natural.
Great movies. Great,
Yeah.
great choices.
And I won't say they're the best, but I've got a reason. The Bull Durham's great because it was written by a guy who played minor league baseball, so it really
Right,
depicts the experience as best you can in a 90-minute movie. And then The Natural, it's just that romance.
right,
It's kind of hokey sometimes, but it does give you that romance, and it's back in the old days, and it gives you just that baseball feel.
right. And The Rookie, I love. The Rookie has one of my favorite scenes in all of baseball when he goes out on his own on the road and there's the speed sign
Yeah, yeah,
and throws the ball and like the 9 is broken. It looks like a 7 and it said like
yeah,
75 or 76 and he's
yeah,
rolling
yeah.
back. It's a
Great
great
scene.
scene.
Yeah.
Mark Linden, baseball positive. You're going to stay on, but I just want to say for the fans of Schupak baseball, if you're involved at all in youth baseball, you have to go to baseballpositive.com. He has a lot of great content, a lot of great material. If you have to contact Mark, how would they do it, Mark?
I've got my contact information on the website. Mark at baseballpositive.com is the email.
Okay, and you could work with any league around the country, giving them your ideas, okay? You have some great stuff on your website, you really do. So, Mark, I want to thank you for coming on Schupak Sports, and I will talk to you shortly, okay?
Yeah, well, thank you, Marty. I appreciate the opportunity to be on with you and to talk to all your viewers and followers. It's been a real pleasure.
Okay.